What if I told you death itself lost fights against these guys? Not some poetic metaphor, literally. These warriors didn't just refuse to go down. They died standing up, glaring, shouting, axes raised. Like the Grim Reaper showed up and they said, "Hold my beer." Yeah, good luck with that, buddy. Today on Serious History, we're diving into 4 absolute units who made death look weak. From a Chinese bodyguard who turned into a human porcupine and still wouldn't sit down, to a Japanese ashigaru crucified but screaming victory, a Viking berserker who turned a bridge into his personal slaughterhouse, and the Swiss Guards who turned the Vatican steps into a wall of the dead. These men didn't lie down for anybody, not even the afterlife. And by the end of this video, you'll be questioning if gravity even applied to them. Stick around, smash that like button if you're ready for some history that hits different, and let's get into it. Story 1, Tian Wini, the Chinese bodyguard, which Grange was a chaotic night at the city of Wansheng when Tian Wei stood there like a living statue of pure rage. Dark night scene, torches flickering, camp under attack. This dude wasn't your average soldier. Born a peasant with freak strength that made people whisper he was part demon, Tian Wei could lift massive weights and wrestle bandits like it was nothing. He swore an oath to warlord Cao Cao that basically said, "I got you, boss, till the end." And brother, he meant it. After impressing Cao Cao with his raw power, he became the ultimate bodyguard, the guy who stood between the warlord and every knife in the dark. Cao Cao had just partied a little too hard with a supposed ally named Jiang Shu when betrayal hit like a truck. Middle of the night, ambush. Arrows flying, screams everywhere, tents on fire. Cao Cao barely escapes on horseback with a few guys, leaving his loyal bodyguard to hold the gate and buy time. Tian Wei, this absolute unit, grabs 2 massive halberds, each one heavier than most men could lift, and plants himself at the entrance like a one-man fortress. The enemy comes pouring in, hundreds of them. How? How does one man stop an army? Watch this. Tian Wei swings those things like they're toothpicks. Left-right heads rolling, bodies dropping. Spears snap like twigs against his weapons. Blood everywhere, but the wounds start piling up. Spears stab him. Arrows stick out of him like he's cosplaying a hedgehog. Does he fall? Nah, this guy keeps swinging. But then, the halberds get too stuck in bodies, or too heavy with gore. He drops them and starts grabbing enemies with his bare hands, crushing skulls, smashing them together like ragdolls. The enemy soldiers are losing their minds. Imagine you're one of them walking up to this monster. You see him lift 2 of your buddies by the neck and bash them. Yeah, you'd pause too. Finally, the blood loss catches up. Tian Wei staggers, but he doesn't slump. He stands there, glaring, still cursing at the top of his lungs. "Come on, you cowards!" The remaining attackers freeze. They're too scared to even approach the body. Legend says they waited until they were sure he was gone before daring to take his head. Only after confirming he was dead did they come forward. Tian Wei died standing up, staring death down like it owed him money. This is so made the entire army think twice about messing with Cao Cao. Cao Cao later mourned him like a brother, and honestly, death got embarrassed that night. This absolute unit made death look weak. But China wasn't the only place where death got humbled. Story 2, Toriyu Sunamen, the low-rank ashigaru Huishwage. We shouted victory from across. It was a desperate day in 1575 during the siege of Nagashino, when Toriyu Sunamen stood there like a living statue of defiance. Even while tied to a cross, the castle was tiny, the garrison desperate against Takeda Katsuyori's massive army. Reinforcements from Oda and Tokugawa were on the way, but the defenders needed a sign to hold out. So this low-rank ashigaru, Tori Suniman, volunteers for the insane mission. He swims the river under cover of darkness, sneaks through enemy lines like a ghost. He delivers the message. The relief force is coming, just hold a little longer. But on the way back, busted. Captured by the Takeda. They drag him right under the castle walls and crucify him for all to see. They taunt the defenders. Watch this traitor. He's going to tell you the truth. Imagine you're inside the castle walls, peering out. Your comrade nailed up there with straw ropes, enemy soldiers laughing around him. They tell him to shout that no help is coming, or else. But Sunamen, this absolute legend, lifts his head and screams at the top of his lungs, "Hold the line! The relief force is coming. Victory is ours." Wait a little longer. Arrows start flying from the enemy. Spears jab at him to shut him up, but he keeps shouting, defiant as hell. Even as they spear him in the stomach to silence him forever, his body refuses to slump. The legend says he stayed upright on that cross. Like death itself couldn't make him bow or break. That cry turned the tide completely. The defenders, inspired, held on. The reinforcements arrived, and the Battle of Nagashino became a legendary turning point, crushing the Dakota invasion. Torii Suniman didn't just die. He died standing, shouting victory from the grave, his voice carrying the day. His family got promoted to samurai status for it. Japan wasn't done flexing yet. Story 3. The sicking burster Stamford Bridge. The one-man wall. It was a bloody morning in 1066 at Stamford Bridge when the unnamed Viking berserker stood there like a living statue of fury, blocking an entire army. Harold Hardrada's invasion of England is falling apart. The Norwegian forces are retreating across the narrow wooden bridge over the River Derwent. But King Harold Godwinson's English army is hot on their heels, thousands strong. The bridge becomes the perfect bottleneck. One man steps up to hold it all. This lone berserker, unnamed champion, built different with rage in his veins, plants himself in the middle, massive axe in hand, and becomes a one-man wall of death. The English charge. He swings that axe like it's possessed by Odin himself. Heads flying, bodies tumbling into the river below. The bridge runs red with blood. Arrows rain down, spears jab from all sides. But this guy keeps fighting. He kills dozens 40 men by some accounts, wounding even more. How? How does one Viking stop an army? But then, mortally wounded, blood pouring, he drops to his knees. The English think it's over. Suddenly he stands again, axe raised, roaring. The body locked upright even as life fades. The English can't pass. They have to get creative. One sneaky Englishman floats under the bridge in a small boat and stabs the berserker from below in a vulnerable spot. But even then, his body stays locked upright, axe still raised like a statue of defiance. The English army is stopped cold until the berserker finally topples after what felt like an eternity. That one-man stand gave the Norwegians time to regroup, but ultimately, it was the stuff of legends. Europe had its own monsters, but one continent took it to another level. Story 4. The last Swiss Guardsman of 1527, 189, 20,000. It was a hellish day in 1527 during the sack of Rome when the last Swiss Guardsman stood there like a living statue of loyalty against impossible odds. The Vatican is under siege by 20,000 mutinous troops, German lanzknechts and Spanish soldiers running wild. Pope Clement VII's personal guard, just 189 Swiss mercenaries, sworn to protect him to the death. They fight corridor to corridor through the Vatican, buying precious time for the Pope to flee. Down to the last 42 at the steps of St. Kai, Peter's Basilica. The commander gives the final order, stand and die like men. No retreat, no surrender, and they do literally. Halberds locked in formation, they form a human wall. The enemy charges in wave after wave. Swords clash, blood sprays across the steps. The Swiss cut down dozens, but they're overwhelmed. One by one they fall, but not really. The survivors prop the dead against the wall, or they die standing, bodies locked upright from sheer will and the press of battle. When the smoke clears the next day, the bodies of the last guardsmen are found still upright against the wall, like statues refusing to fall even in death. 147 died that brutal day. Only 42 made it with the Pope through the secret passage to Castel Sant'Angelo. Their sacrifice saved the papacy. That moment of pure loyalty is why the Swiss Guards still exist today, the oldest active military unit in the world, still protecting the Pope, with May 6 as their Remembrance Day. They stood up, literally, so the church could stand tall. A quick recap of the common thread. Death came for all four, but they just didn't sit down. Dian Wei glared it into submission. Torii Suniman shouted it into retreat. The Viking berserker swung through it like it was nothing, and the Swiss stood as a wall that wouldn't break. These warriors made mortality look like a joke. Yeah, gravity and the afterlife both took a serious L that day. Which one shocked you the most? The Chinese tank who grabbed men like weapons? The crucified shouter who turned defeat into hope? The one-man Viking wall? Or the Swiss who died upright for the Pope? Drop which warrior shocked you most in the comments. I'm reading every single one, and we might feature your take in a future video. If you want more stories where history's badasses refuse to play by the rules of normal men, hit subscribe, ring that bell, and join the Serious History Squad. Next time, we're tackling something even crazier, maybe warriors who cheated death twice. Stay tuned. History doesn't repeat, but these guys refuse to even lie down.